Journalist David Sheff, Steve Carell, works in Dr. Brown's, an addiction specialist, office, Timothy Hutton. He adds that he is not there to write an essay. Rather, he is there because he no longer knows his son, who is a drug addict who has lately turned to crystal meth. His son needs treatment. Think back to a year ago. David, his wife Karen, Maura Tierney, and their two young children, Jasper and Daisy, as well as David's son from his former marriage, Nick, all reside in San Francisco, Timothée Chalamet. Nick disappears one evening from his house. David calls Nick's mother Vicky, his ex-wife, Amy Ryan. The two had a heated discussion about Nick's actions. Nick comes home 2 days later with a hangover. David visits a drug rehab counselor since his conduct is becoming concerning. The counselor claims that their program has an 80% success rate. Following Nick's admission into the program by David, the two embrace and say everything to one another. Nick informs David and Karen that he wants to continue living at the halfway house at the Recovery Center's extension program after some time there rather than immediately enrolling in college. Later, Nick's absence from the halfway house is reported to David by phone. He demands to know furiously why Nick is not being searched for but is informed that their role at that time is not to find him but that they will be there if he should return. Relapse, so the saying goes, is a necessary component of healing. David decides to look for Nick on his own, and he eventually finds him in a wet alley. David admits Nick back to treatment after he throws up inside his car. He demands to know Nick's whole drug usage history when he and Karen bring Nick home, discovering exactly how many narcotics his son is using. Nick informs David and Karen that he wants to continue living at the halfway house at the Recovery Center's extension program after some time there rather than immediately enrolling in college. Later, Nick's absence from the halfway house is reported to David by phone. Later, Nick, who is now feeling well, tells his father that he wants to attend college. David sends Nick off at school while he is ecstatic. They trade everything once more. At first, everything goes smoothly, and Nick even begins dating a classmate. Nick discovers pills in their bathroom on Thanksgiving at his girlfriend's house, and he takes them. At school, he starts using heavy drugs once more, and his relationship breaks down. When he returns home the following time, he asks David if he may use his car to get to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. He goes out and scores instead. The following morning, when the two little kids dispute over Daisy's alleged theft of Jasper's money from his piggy bank, Nick is confronted by David and asked if the money was actually stolen. David realizes Nick is using again despite Nick's forceful denial. Nick refuses further treatment and flees after David claims he shouldn't have allowed him to enroll in school because he wasn't ready. As the movie picks up, Dr. Brown says that crystal meth is highly addictive and that, regardless of the statistic he was given, the likelihood of someone beating an addiction is more likely to be closer to 8%. David undergoes intense events while looking for Nick, including buying and consuming cocaine to try to grasp his son's perspective and meeting and purchasing a dinner for a young addict girl to gain some understanding. When they finally meet, Nick is unpredictable, high, and claims to be clean but needs a few $100s. Nick leaves, absolutely irrationally and unreasonably, when David refuses to give him money and tries to convince him to come home with him. Later, a hospital in New York calls David to inform him that Nick overdosed. When David comes to New York, he discovers Nick has checked himself out against a doctor's orders, but Nick calls him as he is about to board a flight back to San Francisco. Nick informs him that he wants to quit using when he meets him at a diner. We discover the origin of everything in a flashback to the first time David sent Nick to spend the summer with his mother. When Nick was sad to go, his father told him he loved him more than everything in the world, and they repeated it back to each other. Vicky and David decide that Nick will move home with her and continue his treatment in Los Angeles after talking. Nick is quite successful. He completes college, gets along well with Spencer, Andre Royo, his sponsor, and has been sober for 14 months. He makes a trip to San Francisco around this time to see David and Karen. He gets along well with his younger brothers, but David makes him urinate in a cup for a drug test after he gets home from a meeting late. Despite Nick's assurances that he is clean, Nick understands why. Nick feels nervous and anxious after leaving his dad's residence. He phones Spencer and admits that he is struggling. Spencer begs him to join them for dinner that evening, but Nick walks downtown and runs into Lauren, an old acquaintance from recovery, Caitlin Deaver. Together, they buy heavy drugs, use them, and engage in sexual activity. Vicky phones David and alerts him to Nick's disappearance. On the phone, the two start berating one another and screaming. Karen tells David that she needs him to stay at home as he packs his bag once more to hunt for Nick. Karen yells at David that he can't solve this and that he needs to make Nick better. Later, Nick and Lauren steal into their home when his family is away. They flee out the back when the family gets home, but Nick's brother sees them. David and Karen split up, and when Nick veers off in his car, Karen jumps in her car and pursues them for a long distance. Eventually she loses them and collapses. Nick calls an ambulance when Lauren overdoses, and although the EMTs are able to save Lauren, they leave Nick behind. He phones David and cries out that he wants to come home but doesn't want to go to rehab. David insists that he cannot do that. He cannot care for Nick, and that Nick must contact his sponsor and take care of himself. He sends his son out with kind intentions. Nick remains gone after some time has passed. Vicky phones David and begs for assistance in finding Nick, but David is powerless to help any longer. Vicky is convinced he would pass away soon if they do nothing, but David needs to put himself in a different position. To deal with their condition, David and Karen start going to Al-Anon meetings. Nick overdoses once more and almost dies. To visit him, David travels to the hospital. He leads a very frail Nick outdoors for a stroll, and the two of them sit on a seat. Nick falls to the ground and smothers his father in a bear embrace. As the two discuss the future, which is unknown, David rubs his back. Nick has reportedly remained sober for 8 years, despite the fact that it has been a daily struggle.